As we continue our advocacy journey and dive into cold cases, sometimes we even surprise ourselves with the information we find. And this case was no different. We're covering a case today that has been mentioned numerous times to our entire team. Jane is constantly asked about this case as well, because for a long time, she was the first case that was laid out for possible connection to the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases. Over the years, she fell off the timeline. We guessed it was because there was a 10-year gap between her murder and Kathy Milligan's. But now, after reviewing in full detail, we honestly don't know if she should be part of the timeline or not. Let us know your thoughts after you hear this overview. Should Joanne be included in the timeline?
Hello, welcome to Invisible Tears. I'm Jane, co-host of Invisible Tears, and I'm here with my co-host, Amanda. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jane. How are you doing? I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually wearing them because the glare from the light really helps. Makes me squint if I don't wear them. Or wear something that's a little bit tinty.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I don't like being squinty all the time.
Yeah.
It looks weird.
It's annoying.
It is annoying.
And those glasses just look fabulous on you too, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You. $5 at $5 and below, Five Below.
Oh, I haven't gone into one of those yet, but I actually think that we have one in Asheville.
Oh, addicting.
Yeah.
They have so much. So much.
Maybe I shouldn't go in there.
I'm a huge Hello Kitty fan. I love Hello Kitty. I love everything about Hello Kitty. And they have an enormous amount of Hello Kitty stuff in there.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's crazy.
Nice.
So yeah, I like going in there.
Awesome.
Dennis is like, oh, it's false advertisement because not everything is Five Below. Not everything is $5 and below. So what? Some of this stuff is 10.
Yeah.
But it's worth 10.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
Yeah, you gotta check them out. They're very, very cool store.
I will.
So today we are talking about Joanne Dunham.
Yes, we are.
That is a very old unsolved case.
It sure is.
You did some research.
I did.
Let's hear it.
One piece that was interesting. So it took a really long time actually to pull detail on Joanne. We're going back to 1968 with it. And there was a wealth of information in articles, or maybe I should say there was an abundance of articles, but there wasn't a ton of detail for how big this case actually was. And so obviously I did a ton of research in my newspaper database, newspapers.com. That's where almost all of this information that we're going to talk about today has come from the articles in those databases. But I also just generally speaking, just did a search to see like where else she was covered, who else, see if some of our friends have done their fantastic overviews. Maybe they were able to interview people that I could, call out. And Joanne has been covered so minimally. She's only really mentioned in regards to the unsolved Connecticut River Valley killings in episodes, almost as here's a timeline, here's all the cases. I really only found like one podcast that actually did an overview just on Joanne. So especially given early on how Joanne was commonly connected with the Connecticut River Valley cases, and given the detail that I have, everybody will understand why. Proximity, that sort of thing. I'm happy that we were able to pull some information on Joanne and put it out there so she can have a dedicated episode.
I am too.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people mention Joanne.
Yep.
But I've never actually talked to anybody that had any direct relationship with her.
Yep.
Just people that are from the area have always talked about her case.
Yep. Yeah. And so, I mean, I will definitely, preface this, overview that we're going to do on Joanne's case with saying that, I really hate to do, and I know that both of us hate to do an overview on an unsolved murder case without having any sort of information on the person, like as they were in life, right? It's frustrating because even if there's a little information, we want to make sure that we're describing the person correctly, we're memorializing them, we're, describing them as they were in life, because they shouldn't be defined by how their life was ended.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, in this case, I could find zero about Joanne. Her likes, her dislikes, her hobbies, what she was interested in. I could find nothing. I could only really find like the bare details. The little pieces of information that the police ended up, coming out with in general time, a general description of her, things like that. So if anybody's listening to this episode and you have any sort of insight on this, how Joanne was, what her personality was, what she was like, what foods she liked, what, activities she liked to do, was she involved with different activities where she went to high school, please message us. Let us know. We want to know more about who Joanne was in life, and we would definitely do a follow-up episode.
Absolutely.
About that, because that's important to us. So here we go. So Joanne Dunham was born August 15th, 1952 in Buffalo, New York. And now let's fast forward to the last day that she was seen alive. Tuesday, June 11th, 1968, between 7:10 and 7:20 a.m. was the last time that Joanne Dunham was actually seen alive. Now, there's a range there because so many different articles had such a range of time. If you actually go to her cold case snippet on the state of New Hampshire website, it says 7:10. Joanne was 15 years old, and she lived with her parents in Rachey Mobile Home Park in North Charleston, New Hampshire. She was last seen on that Tuesday morning walking to her bus stop that was about a half mile from her house. She was a sophomore at Fall Mountain High School in Langdon, New Hampshire. Joanne never got on that bus. Her parents became worried when she never came home from school. And upon calling the school, that is when they found out that she never made it there that day. I would have been so irritated that I hadn't gotten a call from the school saying she never showed up, but I digress.
Right.
I digress. So the next day, early the next day, Wednesday, June 12th, the Valley News actually published an article about Joanne, and it stated that police were requesting the public's help with locating a missing teenager. Her bus stop where she was last seen was in the area of New Charleston Road, about 1 mile south of the 4A's Hotel. At the time of her disappearance, she was wearing a navy blue nylon jacket with white piping, a blue, green, and orange flowered print dress, and tan sandals. She was carrying a tan basket weave pocketbook and a school book. She was described as blonde, 5'10", and weighing approximately 145 pounds.
She sounds like she was very fashion forward.
She does. And I have to, it was interesting because to also see her described as blonde as well. In some of the pictures that I've seen, it almost looked like she was a brunette. So maybe it was more like a dirty blonde. She was beautiful.
Yes.
She was absolutely gorgeous.
She was.
Yeah, her hair was like short, and we don't have that many pictures, but actually I think we only have one picture of Joanne. Obviously it'll be in the visuals up on our YouTube and Spotify for this. But yes, the description of what she was wearing, I was like, get it, girl.
Yeah.
Very fashion forward. So later on that Wednesday, June 12th, 32 hours after Joanne was last seen alive, So Wednesday, like mid to later afternoon. She was found in a wooded area off Quaker City Road in West Unity, New Hampshire, about 4 miles east of Route 12. She was found by David Haynes, who was a farmer who had joined the search with the police with his dog. Once she was found, she was positively identified quickly, and the police called for Dr. George, and his last name was either Katsis or Katsos. There was a variation of spellings in the articles. He was a Boston pathologist. They wanted him to come up and conduct the autopsy. They didn't want anybody local.
Oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
I thought that too. I was like, okay, let's make sure and call that out. They were very tight-lipped about anything with the case. They would not comment on anything. How she was found, if she had clothes, any indication of anything. Super tight-lipped. They're like, we're not saying anything. We're waiting for the pathologist to conduct the autopsy. The only thing they did state was that local, county, and state officials were investigating the case. But everything actually worked quickly because by Thursday, June 13th, the police released that it was determined that Joanne's death was a homicide. So the autopsy had been conducted.
That was quick.
It was. So, I mean, she disappears on Tuesday, found Wednesday afternoon. By Thursday, this is released. So this is also when they started releasing just small other pieces of information on Joanne. She was found fully clothed, and they released that the autopsy determined that she died from asphyxiation. So she was suffocated, essentially. It's kind of an important distinction there.
Yeah.
Yeah. By Saturday, June 15th, the police were asking the public for any tips or leads, which was interesting. Regardless of how small the information may be, they also asked for anybody local to report any absenteeism from jobs on the day that Joanne was murdered. So there was an article in the local paper that specifically called that out. Hey, anybody tell us if anybody was missing from your job? I was like, wow, they asked for help and they asked for some sort of piece of information like that.
That is some specific information.
It is. It is. So no real news or leads were published again until July 5th. So a few weeks later. A small article in the Brattleboro Reformer said that the police were searching for 2 boys who came to Joanne's home 2 days before her murder asking for her. So the police were actually asking for help identifying these boys, who they were. They were wanted for questioning, basically. And the Sullivan County attorney, Charles Spanos, was referenced in this article, saying he wanted to question the use. And while there were no suspects, he's operating on the premise that she was murdered by someone that she knew.
Interesting.
Yes. Yep. So it was, it almost sounds like in that article, he was very specific. He was like, yes, we need to talk to these young boys. Yes, he couldn't call them a suspect, but we need to question them. And so it was, okay, a little bit more. It was almost like breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
With this, the more and more articles, the further away from the date, within a reasonable amount of time, the further away from the date that she was murdered, the more and more detail you kind of get. So this is kind of like our overviews kind of set up like a timeline.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then on July 17th, the Brattleboro Reformer gives a little bit more detail about Joanne's death because the Sullivan County attorney, Charles Spanos, released the statement explaining that masking tape was used on Joanne, but described the tape in a particular way. So remember how Joanne died from asphyxiation?
Yeah.
Yes. So masking tape, not duct tape, masking tape was actually used and placed over, it was actually wrapped around her head. It was placed over her eyes, her nose, and her mouth. Wrapped around her head. So it was like her entire face like that.
Wow.
Yep. And again, it was masking tape, not duct tape. So he released this statement basically explaining this, which was, I was shocked to see this in an article because it's real detail, right?
Yeah, it is.
And in this statement, he also said that she was found with her wrists bound behind her back with that same tape, with that same masking tape. I know.
I wow, they released information that only the killer would know about.
Mm-hmm.
And they released that.
Mm-hmm.
That's mind blowing. I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. In this article, it was also the first time that I saw the statement that they made that Joanne was actually found. So obviously she was found in a wooded area. We knew that she was found by that farmer. We have his name. And she was found in a pile of leaves in that wooded area. Not buried, just in a pile of leaves.
They talk about any sexual assault or anything like that?
It's interesting because very early on, everybody kept on asking, was there sexual assault? Was she clothed? And they would not comment on it. But it was actually determined that there was no sexual assault in her case. They end up disclosing that a little bit later on in an article. So,
Okay.
Yep. So she was actually found fully clothed, no sexual assault.
Now, just a quick question, and you can probably go back later if you haven't already.
Mhm.
Have you found any other case where a unsolved case or a solved case where tape was actually wrapped around someone's head, masking tape, clear tape?
Masking tape. No, like the masking tape, like the beige tape, like masking beige tape.
Okay.
You know
Have
what tape
you,
I'm talking about?
yeah, have you heard of anybody else, them finding any other bodies like that?
I have not, but I'm definitely drawn to do a search about it.
That almost sounds like a MO, like a something that if they do it once, they probably have done it or would do it again.
Right.
That's very, very unusual.
Yeah. It was very unusual. Number one, the type of tape,
Yeah.
the way it was taped, and the way she was found, it was maybe these indicators, and I don't know, maybe there were other indicators that they didn't actually release publicly, that sort of eluded the police that were investigating that it was someone that she knew. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. Not off the top of my head for the question about any other cases with that masking tape, but I'll definitely search.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm. It would be. It'd be really interesting. Another interesting piece by July 31st of 1968, so about a month and a half later, the state attorney general at the time, George Papagiannis, requested that the governor and the executive council for the state offer a $10,000 reward for information leading to the apprehension and conviction of the killer or killers of Joanne Dunham. It came at the recommendation from the Sullivan County attorney, Charles Spanos. This was the first time I had ever actually seen any sort of request like this. In any of the cases, I was like, wait a minute. It was the attorney general that was actually asking the governor to offer a reward. Most of the time, it's like private citizens or like companies coming forward or the family, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Wow.
And they did. They were like, yep. They released the money. So there was a $10,000 reward from the state for information about
1968. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. I think the way that it was laid out to the governor and the executive council was this is a heinous crime to a young girl. We need to get this solved. You need to do this. And so they're like, okay. All right. And then we fast forward to February 21st, 1969. So just to recap a little bit, so there was an article that comes out, or there's a series of articles that come out that give us little more bits and pieces about like how she was found, odd things, a couple of boys that need to be talked to, that sort of thing. $10,000 reward from the state ends up being publicized, which is historical, I think. So February 21st, 1969, the Concord Monitor wrote an article detailing that there were now 3 men suspected or sought after in Joanne's case. And one of them was a, quote, prime suspect. All of them were New Hampshire men. Furthermore, in this article, they claimed that there was, or investigators claimed that there was one good clue in the case. Of course, no other information was specifically, like it didn't say one good clue and that is this, right, in the article. It was interesting because as this article was saying this information, it also was outlining a rift between local law enforcement and state police, because they wrote the article laying all this out, and then they had state police and the comments and the reactions from the state police. And the state police weren't in the loop at all. They didn't know what they were talking about with the 3 suspects.
Really?
Yeah. So it was interesting. It's almost like, so by the time that, it was the next year, it wasn't quite a year, but it was the next year, it almost seemed like, state police were definitely involved at the beginning, but it seemed like all the local just kept on investigating and took over, and the state police really were sort of taken out of the loop. Because, yeah, in this article, when the state police were interviewed, they said that they knew nothing about what Spanos, the Sullivan County attorney, was talking about. They didn't know about the 3 suspects, but they said, if we get anything, we're going to investigate it. Spanos was quoted in saying that the investigation was happening between himself, the Charleston police chief, and the Sullivan County sheriff. So it was local.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, that piece about the one good clue, I want to talk about that a little bit. I think, just generally speaking, I've seen this a couple of places. So this article detailed out that, that the cop said, oh, we have one good clue. And in this article, it said that Joanne had been murdered on a Tuesday. And it was found out that Joanne had been out of school for 10 days throughout the school year, 6 of them being Tuesdays.
Really?
Yep. So I think that's what I think that's what everybody's referring to, generally speaking, as the one good clue. Because it definitely is a really good piece of information to sort of zone in on the case, right? Because it could possibly indicate, maybe Joanne was seeing someone and Tuesdays were their day off.
But she was only 15.
Yes, she was.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that is a pretty common theory that's somewhat floating around, just because 6 of those 10 days were Tuesdays. It could also be, to be honest with you, it could also be like maybe she had a class on those Tuesdays that she didn't like. Maybe she had gym. Maybe she had,
yeah.
Maybe that was it. But I think that the theory about the Tuesdays at the school and her possibly seeing someone came from the Charleston police chief, Charles Gibson, noted that he actually had a witness that came forward that said they were fishing near where Joanne was found on that day, and that he saw a light-colored automobile cross a nearby bridge. A man was driving, and he saw a girl in the passenger seat, just sort of like leaning her head back against the center post of the front seat. Now, I don't know if police were able to positively identify this girl as Joanne from the witness. Don't know how close he was or anything like that. But regardless, of course, this whole attendance and that sighting, obviously that's a pretty good clue too, right? But I found a little bit of a piece in an article that I think everybody has actually overlooked too. There was this small little itty bitty paragraph in one of the articles that I was reading that gave further detail about the masking tape. It was actually found, and this was published, it was actually found that that masking tape that Joanne was bound with was traced back to a singular manufacturer and had been in distribution only about a year at the time of Joanne's murder. So, don't get me wrong, it probably could be distributed tons of places. I mean, masking tape is a pretty common thing. However, the singular manufacturer and the distribution for only a year, that's real that can really narrow down who actually purchased and or came into possession of that tape.
Yeah. I mean, hmm.
I was really surprised to see that in an article. I was also really surprised to not hear anybody else mention it either.
Yeah, really.
So, yeah. Like my criminal mind's mind is going right now, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, that's a really big clip.
Yeah, because you got to put your mind back into 1968.
Right.
You didn't go online to look this stuff up, look for masking tape. You didn't go online and order masking tape or buy it offline.
Mm-hmm.
So there had to be limited amount of stores that actually sold it
Mm-hmm.
if it was a new item, if it was a fairly new manufactured item.
Yeah.
And in 1968, in that area, I don't believe there were a whole lot of stores. And I would almost think that kind of masking tape would have been sold more in hardware stores.
Me too. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like your
That's
local hardware store.
that's where I immediately go to is hardware stores, my mind. And there was, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of family owned hardware stores, but you would think that they would be able to narrow it down a little to where this masking tape was actually sold.
Yep. I think so too, especially with it only being one manufacturer and only being distributed for 1 year.
Yeah.
It was like such a small area. I personally think that, I mean, don't get me wrong, the absences on the Tuesdays may very well, give really good clues into, what was going on and possibly who she actually did have contact with. I agree with that. But I think that the detail about the masking tape, and I don't even know if they were actually supposed to publicly put that out there, but I found it.
Really?
And I was like, huh. It just seems like a very, very, very specific detail that is definitely trackable. That wouldn't be too intensive based off of the parameters to find receipts about who purchased it around the area.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, yes, it very well could have been, the perpetrator could have been somebody from outside of the area. Absolutely, they could have been. But chances are they were somewhat familiar with the area and were somewhat familiar with the footprint.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know if police have like any more information pertaining to that. That would be so interesting to know though. If like where that led. Did they chase that down? I hope they chased that down. Like where did that lead? Do they now have, this list of people based off of that? I don't know.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. And now back to our episode.
So during this time, as we're finding out the detail about the masking tape too, they were finally releasing more information. Little details about Joanne's father actually came out, and there were only a couple of things. But I actually think that those might be helpful and indicators too, in her case, possibly, right? When you're thinking about like victimology sort of. Turns out that Joanne's father, John Dunham, was actually a police chief in Sheridan, New York, from May 1957 through March 1960. So
interesting.
Yep. Interesting piece of news right there. Also, we found out in an article that John managed a trailer park at the time of Joanne's murder. So it wasn't confirmed whether or not it was the park that they were living in. I don't know how many parks in 1968 existed in North Charleston. I would assume it may have been the park that they were living in, but they didn't confirm that. So he was also the park manager at the time. Again, grasping at any sort of pieces of information that can help with her case or give us any sort of information. So then if we fast forward to November of 1970, a handful of articles start circulating saying that there's new evidence in Joanne's case. And they only have the only information that we can get on this is that they've received this information over the course of a few weeks and they were, quote, very interesting. So it's like tips, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, must be.
And they were very interesting. The officers basically stated that they didn't want to raise false hope, but the information or leads that they received, they're treating as if the lead could solve the case. Wasn't the case. I think they were just more generally speaking saying like any information that we're getting about this case, we're treating it like it could solve the case. I think that's I think that's what they were trying to get out there. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry, anything that comes in, we're really, tracking it down. And then it essentially goes silent for a bit. In 1981, I did find a couple articles that started circulating around, naming unsolved cases, right? And of course, given the time that it was 1981, they were mentioning Schaefer a bit.
Yeah.
Of course. One of the articles definitely, so we actually previously did an overview on Deborah Horn as well. She was a young girl that was murdered. And this article was mentioning they were trying to make it similar circumstances, not too much. But I think the media was just really trying to get eyes on the unsolved cases that were happening, trying to stir up theories to make law enforcement sort of come in and do something and say if there was updates and things like that. Like, it's interesting. You can tell the headlines that are just sort of clickbaiting, and you can tell the headlines that are putting out the information and they're not necessarily saying anything's tied. They're just like, these have occurred. What is going on? Could they be related? We don't know. Please should update us. Please should do this. Please should do that. And I think it's just the media just trying to like prompt them to not forget about the cases.
They did that with me.
Yep.
As soon as my attack happened, all of a sudden, all the Connecticut River Valley cases was in the paper.
Yep.
All at once. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, in these articles, there was even an update on the Teresa Fenton case, which Schaefer was responsible for. Joanne was mentioned in that as well. I actually did end up finding in a later article in 1984 that they did verify that Schaefer was investigated for Joanne's death, but he was never linked to it. Because they did end up finding too that Schaefer was attending Springfield, Vermont High School at the time of Joanne's death. So they were like right across the river, about the same age as well.
Mm.
Yep. So just like spotted little articles, just trying to drum up, hey, all these things are unsolved. What are police doing? Who could possibly be connected? And then, of course, by April of 1986, Joanne's all over the place again, because that's when the bi-state task force was formed, and she was one of the cases being mentioned that was going to be a part of this task force. With the slew of these articles, a couple of interesting pieces did actually come out that weren't previously detailed in the other articles that I had seen. So we had previously heard about like where Joanne was found and how she was found and that sort of thing. But I did not know that where Joanne was found was approximately 1 mile from where Eva Morse was found.
Oh, Eva and Betsy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yes, it is. And I was like, wait a minute. And I found it in a couple articles. So I haven't gotten a chance to do it yet. But I definitely think that I'm probably going to do a little bit of map research and just sort of like verify like the roads and everything that they were, because it also took the newspapers forever to actually call out what town Joanne was found in as well. They kept on just saying the road. And then finally, a little bit later on, it was detailed out as Unity, West Unity. And I was like, okay, all right, that makes a little bit of sense. So I'm going to do a little bit of mapping work because the second that I saw that, I just sort of went, oh,
Well, that kind of explains a lot then, because I've often wondered, why were people trying to connect Joanne's case with the Connecticut River Valley cases?
Yep.
It didn't make sense to me because her death was very different. Her murder was very different from the others.
right.
The others believed were stabbed to death.
Mhm.
Hers was asphyxiation.
Yep.
So that's why I often was confused why they connected. But you know what? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been where Eva and Elizabeth were found.
Yes.
And you have to know that spot.
yes.
You have to know where that is. You have had to have been there before.
Mhm.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah. And so that it was almost like as I was doing this, and once I found that comment in a couple articles, it took everything in my power to not just like message you, because I wanted to wait for this recording to talk with you about it, to actually get it on, recording. Now I get it.
Yeah,
Now I get it. Like only
I do too.
only a mile. Now I understand in talking about, all the commonly linked Connecticut River Valley cases too. If Joanne, let's say Joanne was the first in 1968, then there's a span of 10 years before Kathy Milligan.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Mhm.
but the location of where she was found, once that was verified, I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I get why she's commonly talked about too. And they also re-verified in those articles about the task force that there was no sexual assault evident in her case.
The wheels in my head are turning. It's like, all right, they were so open about what they found,
Mm-hmm.
describing evidence and stuff like that with Joanne's case.
Mhm.
But then when it came to Eva and everybody else's case, they were really kind of tight-lipped.
Yeah.
About what they actually had found. And I wonder if she was involved in that task force, not just for geography purposes, but I wonder if that tape had been found with any of the other victims.
Interesting, Jane.
Because that tape is just like key to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It was key to me too.
like real key to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if there was other evidence of that tape anywhere around where any of the other remains were found or any of the bodies were found.
Right. There's also, I have to be honest with you though, too. I mean, there's probably with how much of that tape was used, and how do you use masking tape or duct tape? You rip it too, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be fingerprints. With how much was used, there's got to be prints or DNA on that,
Oh,
man.
there's gotta be DNA. Gotta be. And I hope they saved it. I hope they saved that tape. And maybe someday they can test it if they haven't already. Because there's gotta be touch DNA on there somewhere.
There's got to
Touch
be.
DNA. Because they found her in a very short amount of time.
Yes. Yep.
So that evidence was preserved, or should have been preserved, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if they preserved it correctly, they should be able to go back to that tape and do touch DNA.
Yeah.
And maybe match it up with some of their persons of interest or their suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or even the list of people that have purchased that tape
yeah,
around the area.
exactly. I mean, there's got to be, God, I wish I knew more of what they're doing,
Me too.
because that is just, that tape is so significant. Like,
I thought the
so
same thing, Jane.
significant.
I thought the same thing. And like, it's funny because like I said before, everybody kept on pointing to that one good clue. Oh, it was the whole Tuesdays always out of school. So it had to be that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that is a good clue. That does lead you to what could have possibly been going on in Joanne's life, and things that were going on in Joanne's life could have some sort of, it could lead you in a direction that could help solve the case. But the more important detail that I found was that freaking masking tape, because it's so specific. It's so specific and it can be tracked.
Yeah, I mean, so her manner of death was asphyxiation with the tape wrapped around her whole head there. Why were her hands taped behind her back? No sexual abuse. This was a personal attack. This was a personal murder. Yeah. She knew who it was. Because nothing else makes sense. It wasn't brutal. It wasn't for the kill. It doesn't sound like, to me, it was for the kill. I feel like it was someone that was extremely angry and maybe she wanted to release or talk to someone about something going on in her personal life, and that person wanted to shut her up. And that's why they covered her face and everything with the masking tape. Oh, no. I see everything about it was personal. Yeah. There was no other manner of death.
Right.
Or none released, anyways.
It's so baffling, but it's also interesting to think about too, in that even though it's frustrating that there's not like more like information about Joanne out there, the details that they actually did release now for the state of New Hampshire is shocking. Absolutely shocking, because it's so specific what they released too.
Oh, absolutely, Amanda. That I'm shocked that they even released. I mean, they even went to as far as to say her hands were bound behind her with this masking tape.
Right.
Like, they did not have to release that. That could have been something that only the killer knew about. And with interrogation, they could have got that out of them.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't really hide. If they hid anything, I can't imagine what they could have hid that would have, I don't want to say this. To me, releasing information about her crime scene, what they released was huge.
It was.
So I can't imagine what else they must have had at that crime scene, or what they didn't release.
Right.
And if they found more at that crime scene and didn't release it, I don't see how they could not have solved this case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's almost like where I was going with it, right? They've released so much publicly, which New Hampshire never does anyway. Who knows if they have more information that they haven't released publicly for the integrity, for the integrity of the case.
Yeah.
Solvable.
So that's what I keep seeing. Solvable, written all over the place. Solvable.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That this case is from 1968 and still not solved.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do have one other piece of information, though, that I think is going to make your heart a little warm in regards to this case. I'm not sure if you know it or not, though. So I know that both you and I have seen that police have sort of like revived this case. There's been a couple of like plugs out there recently, as soon as, just in June, right?
Yeah.
There were little snippets and little articles and some quotes going out there just saying that they're, fresh eyes, renewed interest in Joanne's case. And there was an article that was done that said that the new investigator on Joanne's case, he found out she didn't have a headstone. And so he contacted or got into contact with the Assistance and Victims Compensation Program, who took immediate steps to assist the Dunham family with getting a headstone, and it's now placed at her grave. So when I read that, I went, that warms my heart. I didn't realize
It
that
does.
the Victims Compensation Program did that. Now we know, right? Now we know as we go on our advocating journey, we know that they can sort of help with things like that. And the quotes from the investigator to his last name was Flanagan. He sounds compassionate and he sounds as if he's working directly with the family, like, you know, as well. So sounds like they have a compassionate investigator now. And thanks to the Victim Compensation Fund, Jane,
Yeah.
they helped get Joanne Dunham a beautiful headstone
Do you know when they did this?
just recently.
Is there a picture of her headstone on
Find a grave.
line?
Yep.
Find a grave.
There is.
Where is she buried?
Joanne Dunham is buried in Claremont at St. Mary's Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Okay, in the WMUR article that I can find and actually pulled up, it just said recently Dunham's grave finally got a headstone thanks to the work of the investigator. Oh, there's his first name, Investigator Todd Flanagan, in conjunction with the Victim Compensation Fund.
When was that article?
June 11th of this year.
This year.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Have to
June
take a ride.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. So I thought you would like hearing that.
I love everything about that. You know, I'm sorry, but I just feel, especially when these victims are so young and their lives were taken so tragically, and obviously the family at the time doesn't expect this. There's no life insurance money to cover their expenses for, you know, funeral and that type of stuff. It breaks my heart to know that there are victims out there that were taken so tragically that don't have headstones. They deserve a headstone.
Yes.
Every single one of them deserve a headstone. Trust me, if I knew or if I know of any others that don't have a headstone, I will personally make sure that they will eventually get a headstone. People may think I'm weird or whatever. I don't care. But the first time when we went to Bernice Quartermash's grave, I was angry. I was heartbroken for her. And I was heartbroken for the family not to see a headstone. And the vibe was so morbid and dark and everything that day. You were there.
Yep.
You saw it. You felt it.
I felt
you
it.
literally felt it with us. Now I go to Bernice's gravestone, and it's such a different vibe. It's such a different feeling. You know, even though her case is still unsolved, I almost think, especially with her parents being buried there also in the same spot she's in, I almost feel a small sense of peace now when I go there. There's always a butterfly flying around me, and it's just such a different vibe. And I hope, my hope too, is when family or friends go and visit Bernice now, they feel that different vibe. They feel an ounce of peace that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Tearing up. But yeah, I just, I feel very strongly about the whole gravestone thing in these circumstances. And by no means do we blame family or the parents. I mean, these tragedies, these murders were so unexpected. How could they even prepare to put money aside for a funeral or a headstone? I mean, how do you don't prepare for that? Not when they're 16 years old. It doesn't happen. So in no way do I place any type of blame at all on the parents. But I'm glad. Are her parents still alive?
I know that based off of Find a Grave, I know that her father has passed away. No indication of her mother, though. So I'm not sure. I would assume that her mother would be connected in with her profile if she had passed. So, yep, I just got confirmation that her father did.
Now, what about, did she have siblings?
That's a great question.
Don't know.
I don't know. I couldn't even find her mother's name, first name. It was always listed as Mr. and Mrs. John Dunham. Like it was in articles.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I hope someone in the family is still, uh, still alive and is able to go visit Joanne's grave and her stone and feels a little sense of peace now.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yep. I hope so too. I know that based off of the way that I think the recent articles were outlined, there is family that is still, advocating and the family definitely obviously appreciated the headstone. I believe there was even a mention that it was in time for the anniversary of her passing.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
so had to have been in by, the beginning of this past June. So I'm happy for the family that they had that.
Well, hopefully we can find more info about who Joanne was, siblings, and
Yeah.
what
I
she
would
was
love
all about. Because we are still very victim focused,
absolutely.
and let's not forget that this case is still unsolved.
Mhm.
It's not been solved. So yeah, if you have information, come forward. I just see solvable all over the place.
Yeah.
And hopefully the cold case unit is looking more into it, and hopefully they're still going through things and sending stuff out for DNA,
Mhm.
especially where she was found so quick. Like that is huge,
Mhm.
huge for DNA. That is huge for any kind of evidence that they could get off of her.
Yep.
That is just huge.
Yeah. I really hope with a renewed focus with the fresh eyes, I hope that they're going over every sort of avenue that they possibly can for forensics.
Yes.
And then, yeah. And if anybody has any information, whether it's the smallest, please contact the cold case unit.
Yes. It could be your tip that solves this case. It could be your tip. And that's exactly what they were looking for to solve this case.
Yeah.
You could be the puzzle piece. So, yes, Amanda will be posting information on contact information about this case, who to contact for if you have tips or info. Yeah, please come forward if you do. Now's the time. Been too long.
Mm-hmm.
This case needs to be solved.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Amanda?
I don't have anything else. Jane, do you?
No. Well, you know me, the wheels in my head are still spinning. But no, not right now. Hopefully we can do a follow-up on this with
Oh,
more information about Joanne and who she is or who she was,
yeah.
and more information about her family
Mm-hmm.
and what
Yes.
was going on in her life back then. She
I
was so fashion forward.
she
I
was
can't the
beautiful.
woven bag, the bag,
Yeah.
the woven basket bag. I can so picture that.
Yep.
Like so picture that.
Matching the tan sandals. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So fashionable. Yeah. I would love to learn more about Joanne and life.
Yeah, I would too.
So
I would too. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Invisible Tears. Don't forget to subscribe, share. Don't forget to go to our Facebook page, Invisible Tears, and like and share our page. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast to hear all future episodes. Click into our link tree too in the episode description to find and follow us on all our social medias. And it also links to our website, invisible-tears.com, where you can keep current on any events that may be coming up, read more about Jane and the team, and read more about all the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases. Evil may exist in this world, but we will not let it win. See you next episode.